Call the meeting to order. Has this meeting been properly noticed and a quorum present?
Yes.
Thank you. No public hearings for today. Is there anyone who wishes to make public comments on items not on the agenda? We don't have any previous registrants, so I'm going with no on that. Are there any disclosures and recusals for the day? Always welcome to do that if it comes to mind later. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting? Okay, I'm going to get Joe. Hang on. Okay, Joe.
Okay, so move.
Thank you. David Branson.
Second.
Thank you. Motion passes unless there's an objection. Alder Furman.
I don't have an objection to the minutes. I just wanted to request that we call the roll after this, please.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, the minutes are approved. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll? I guess if you just show a hand.
Okay. Dave Branson.
Here.
Joe Clausius.
Here.
Michael Cullen. I think he's here. Right. Okay. Alder Furman.
Present.
Alder Evers.
Here.
And Felice Adams. And Jackie Lawton.
And Jackie Lawton. Thank you. That's the roll. Those are the minutes we approved. And there's no water resources reports today. I'd ask for approval unanimously of the consent agenda, items 6 through 10, 14 through 17, 19 through 20. We have a registrant on item 9 who did not wish to speak.
Not wish to speak, but is available to answer questions.
And
Lauren Downing.
Thank you. So I've lost him.
Jackie, was that one registrant?
One registrant to my understanding.
Okay.
Okay.
And that there'd be no reason to separate that then unless the board wanted to.
All right. Is there any motion to separate item 9? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? Dave?
To approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Alder Furman?
Second.
Thank you. Motion approves unanimously by lack of objection. Okay. That gets us to item 5, Andy Swig, Cedar Street, Fish Hatchery Road to Park, and we have a registrant on this project. Joe. Joe, did you want to make a comment? Okay.
I didn't have a comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Hello
Andy.
everyone. Again, my name is Andy Zwig. I'm with engineering. I'm here with a resolution to approve the geometry for the new Cedar Street construction, the reconstruction of South Street, High Street, the resurfacing of Linger Drive, the realignment of Beld Street into existing Cedar Street. The project is adjacent to the new Cedar Street we built in the new Truman Ocean property. That probably be redeveloping once we construct Cedar Street. SSM is also rebuilding their clinic along South Street. We're also working with them on their site plan and connecting Cedar Street to Fish Hatchery Road. The resolution also includes intersection improvements at the Cedar Park Street intersection. We did have a public meeting for this project at the end of May. That was a virtual meeting where I presented information about the design of all these streets. We took the project to the Transportation Commission 2 weeks ago to approve this resolution. They approved portions of it and had their own recommendations, and then didn't approve a portion. They did not approve the Park Street, Cedar Street geometrics, specifically the islands that we're currently showing in the median. They did approve the realignment of Beld Street to existing Cedar Street. They did approve South Street, High Street, Wingra, and they did approve Cedar Street, however, with some of their own recommendations. They recommended to remove the parking lane. So we're proposing on Cedar 2 travel lanes, 2 bike lanes, and a parking lane along the south side of New Cedar Street. The Transportation Commission, they recommended that we remove the parking along the south side of Cedar Street in favor of buffered bike lanes. So the street width, based on our proposal of the initial resolution and the recommendation of the Transportation Commission of a 40-foot street width, is the same. It's how it's marked would be currently different based on the Transportation Commission's recommendation. Engineering would like to maintain a 40-foot proposed Cedar Street width. We don't want to have to get any more right-of-way along the Truman Olson site. And we also don't want to shift the road to the north to impact the existing Pick and Save grocery store and that Welton property. We have heard from the developer of the Truman Olson site that they would like the parking to remain. I think they are planning to speak this evening.
Andy, can I get a point of clarification here?
Yep.
I'm clear on the buffered bike lanes and the parking issue that you just went over. I just want to make sure we're all clear on what is approved. Would it be correct to say that the Transportation Commission did not recommend approval of the island configuration on Park Street or anything east of Park Street?
That's incorrect. They did approve the geometrics east of Park Street, which would be the realignment of Beld Street to Cedar Street. They did not approve the island, essentially the island configuration in the middle, and the Cedar. I guess maybe they did not approve this existing Cedar connection to Park Street. So some of it they approved to the east, maybe not the connection, but they did approve the Beld realignment away from Park Street.
Okay, so they didn't approve or approve it. They want to exclude Park
Correct.
Street.
We plan to take another resolution to council to board council TC board with new geometrics for the intersection, the middle of the intersection, and same with the connection to the east, and maybe some modifications to just the connections of Cedar to the Park Street intersection.
Okay, as I reread the note on the agenda in regards to the action of the Transportation Commission, I think that actually is consistent with what you're saying. So thank you.
Yep. We had the island in there because we did hear feedback from the neighborhood that they didn't want New Cedar Street to traffic on New Cedar to cross through to existing Cedar and vice versa. That's why that island was there. And all construction east of Park Street is a different project that will be built in 2022. We will be doing another public meeting for that project. We'll also be running assessments, taking bringing the approval of plan specs and estimates to board next year. We wanted to include the Beld connection up to existing Cedar right now to make sure that those geometrics were approved by TC and board and council, because we have to buy a house, and that real estate process takes a while. So we wanted to make sure that all the committees were okay with that, so we can go ahead and start that real estate process and have it done by construction of 2022. Cedar Street between Park and South Street, along with all of South Street and High Street and Wingra, will all be built in 2021. We've worked with SSM and asked their feedback on what they want built in 2021 regarding South Street, and they are okay with that construction going on during their clinic construction. The last portion of Cedar from South to Fish Hatch will be built in 2022, and that's requested by SSM, and engineering is okay with that. We need to do a land swap with SSM where we buy a portion or swap land because Appleton Road will go away. So Appleton will eventually, that right of way will be theirs, and we'll establish right of way and essentially the SSM's current parking lot. So this whole project, there's a lot going on, a lot of construction years, a lot of stuff going on with the design. So I can answer questions. I know traffic engineering will also speak about what their recommendation is for Cedar Street too. So Sean, you can go ahead and state what kind of traffic engineering's thought is on what you would like Cedar Street to be.
I'd like to interrupt just a second. And
Sure.
Where is this grocery store issue? Is that to the
That would be the
east of Park Street?
No, it's west of Park Street, south of New Cedar Street. That's the Truman Olson development. That's where the grocery store, the proposed grocery store, will be located.
Does this map have north going to the bottom of the page?
North would be on the page. North would be up. So the north arrow is in the upper right corner of. Yep, and so south would be down on the page.
Okay, as we would typically expect. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll let Sean, I'll let you speak regarding your thoughts on Cedar Street.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Andy. That was a good summary of what the history on the project so far. So, as Andy already mentioned, staff had initially proposed a Cedar Street configuration with a proposed parking lane on the south side with an unbuffered bike lanes in each direction at Transportation Commission. After Transportation Commission's review, the commission recommended the parking lane be removed and replaced with buffers for the bike lanes. Traffic engineering can find that both options are able to serve all transportation modes in a safe and efficient manner, and is okay with both options proposed.
Thanks, Sean.
So it's just to state probably the obvious here. So the board of Public Works can take the Transportation Commission's recommendation and move that forward to the Common Council. Can go with the original recommendation from staff, or could modify it. Those are your options.
Okay. We have a registrant who wishes to speak on this. Oh,
I think Alder Evers was trying to say something.
Yeah, am I unmuted now?
yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think it would be also helpful. I've invited Grant Foster from the Alder Grant Foster to be able to speak to the unanimous recommendation of Transportation Commission, as well as potentially presenting some options where parking on Cedar Street may be maintained along with these buffered protected bike lanes. I just think it's really important in our decision-making process when we have committees with public engagement to make sure that a recommendation from one of our committees is seriously considered and understood, that we don't just gloss over it. And I'm curious and want to understand Transportation Commission's viewpoint, which is contrary to what staff has just said, that these two options are equally safe. And I don't know if the unanimous opinion of the Transportation Commission, in fact, from sitting in on that meeting, it's clear to me they do not agree. And while I am not an expert in transit alternatives, these people were assigned to this committee because they are. And I think we need to hear what they have to say. Thank you.
Very good. Michael, did you want to make a comment or hold on to that? Okay. Alder Foster.
Hi. Yeah, I guess I can, as Alder Evers said, he asked me to attend tonight and just be able to represent the recommendation from the Transportation Commission. So as you already heard, yeah, the recommendation was to exclude the intersection geometry. I think both traffic engineering and engineering felt like there were some other alternatives that could be considered. So they were going to go back to the drawing board and rework those. And it was felt that that was a second stage of the project. So pulling that out at this point would not hinder moving forward with the Cedar and South Street project. In regards to the Cedar Street project, as you've heard, the recommendation was to include buffered bike lanes in this section. The rationale for that is that given the expected motor vehicle average traffic volumes on the street, buffered bike lanes are indicated in order to provide safe and comfortable bike facilities for people of all ages and builds. So in Madison, we have a Streets resolution that commits ourselves to doing that. And so it was the view of the commission that buffered bike lanes were called for in this case.
Thank you. Was there another registered to speak?
Yes, we have a couple of registrants.
Thank you.
Brandon Rule from 26th Street, wishing to speak.
Hello?
Yep.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yes, thanks, guys. I am Brandon Rule. I am developer with Rural Enterprises, and I am one of the 2 developers on the project site in conjunction with Moving Out, Megan Schultz. So Megan is on the line as well. As the development team, we just wanted to, one, show our support and make sure that everyone knew that we were supportive of the entire process. And then 2, just kind of comment on one of the items. We would actually prefer or propose that if we can maximize the parking on Cedar Street, ideally it would be better for the grocery, and frankly, because we have a pretty large grocery store, a full service grocery store of about 24,000 square feet, it would be ideal, frankly, for us to be able to have some level of parking on Cedar Street for people that may just have a quick in and out type of experience and does not want to fully engage with the garage. So high level, that's what we wanted to say today, but really thank everyone for coming on and look forward to continued collaboration on the process.
Thank you. Megan, did you want to add anything at this point?
No, I'm on just in case. So we had double coverage here, but yeah, just reiterating what Brandon had said and ensuring that we can maximize parking for our development in a very, very tight site.
And we all received a letter from Melissa Huggins about maintaining the parking on the street also. With that, are there other discussions from the board?
Melissa Huggins is here, available to, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Here we go, Michael, just hang on. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of unclear just exactly what is being proposed and why, specifically in regards to the buffer bike lanes. What's the difference between a buffered bike lane and an unbuffered bike lane? And then I'd like to know, the second part of that question would be, if there is a buffered bike lane, what are we connecting here?
I think we'll jump to Andrew.
Yep, I can answer that. So a buffered bike lane is when you have a area between the edge of the travel lane and the bike lane. In this case, it would be 3 feet, where it would just be striped out and given extra space between the cars and a biker. That is what TC recommended. With the original resolution that engineering proposed, we had a parking lane, a bike lane, and then the bike lane, and then the travel lanes. The bike lanes and the travel lanes were adjacent to each other. So in that case, the car and the biker would be traveling closer together. In this case, these bike lanes, they don't directly connect to bike lanes on existing Cedar Street. And at Fish Hatch, there's no road that continues. There are bike lanes on Fish Hatchery Road. And then there are also, there are people do bike on existing Cedar Street and would cross Park Street. And then they would have a bike lane to get into on the new proposed street.
Right now, the bike lane on Fish Hatchery Road is not buffered. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So why would we need one on Cedar Street if we don't need one on Fish? It seems like, for me, Fish Hatchery is a lot more busy than what this street's going to be.
And I guess that would be a question to, either traffic engineering or, Alder Foster representing, TC on why they would be looking for a buffer bike lane.
Well, those folks are thinking about their answer. Keep in mind that, and this comes up a lot, where you have a recommendation and somebody will point out, well, you didn't do it there. Well, the standards are constantly changing. So it was a different world, different standards, different considerations when Fish Hatchery Road was reconstructed several years ago. So I wouldn't weight that too heavily. We know things that we didn't used to know, and buffered bike lanes do provide some benefit for bikes. Probably if we were doing Fish Hatchery Road today, probably we would do buffered bike lanes if we possibly could. And in fact, we are looking for ways to get bikes off of Fish Hatchery Road to make that safer for them.
But why is it that we would need them on Cedar? Is the traffic expected on Cedar is going to be that much greater than, say, on other streets in the city like Kendall Avenue or?
Yeah, I'm not defending it either way. I'm just stating that over time, standards and practices change, and that's the case, and that's why you see an inconsistency between Fish Hatchery Road and Cedar Street.
Okay. Alder Evers.
Commissioner Cullen, to speak to your question, I sat in on that Transportation Commission meeting, as I said earlier. It was very interesting, by the way. Again, people who know a lot more about this than I do. The question was posed, what are the number of cars that are anticipated to be on this new Cedar Street per day? And the answer was 5,000, which was considerably more than something like Kendall and in the near west side neighborhood. So I will leave it to Alder Foster to speak to this specifically, why that's important. But I would also like, and I've sent this over to Rob, and I'm wondering if it's possible, and perhaps even Alder Foster could share it. There is a proposal here where if we were to shrink the size of the terraces on both sides and remove the street trees, we could still allow for a lane of parking if it's really deemed to be absolutely essential for the benefit of the grocery store. We could allow for parking on that south side of Cedar.
So
shrink the size of the terraces potentially, and still do so while maintaining the geometry, the overall. It would not impact the project in terms of having to go to Welton Enterprises, the neighboring property, and seek some of their right of way. And I'd like to see if it's possible to share those drawings and get comments from engineering and staff as to whether or not this is feasible. Just this seems like a proposal that accomplishes all the goals that are being discussed here.
Yeah, I can answer that question with help from Lauren, the stormwater engineer. Engineering does not want to shrink the terraces because Cedar Street is a new road. We need to treat and contain the water that Cedar is creating, and we're going to do that by having terrace, rain gardens, and other stormwater features. I guess, Lauren, you could add to that.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lauren Striegel. I'm the stormwater engineer on this project, as Andy said. And Andy's right, because this is a new road, we are needing to treat. Our ideal number would be 60% of the TSS off of this road. That is practically not possible out here. So we're really just trying to maximize what we can treat. And the way that we plan to do it was to run swales, which they're not exactly rain gardens. They're essentially large, grassed, vegetated, maintained ditches that capture sediment as well as phosphorus as water runs down it. We intended to put swales along both the north and the south sides, draining to wherever the ground generally wants to drain. So any amount that we take out of the terrace is less area that we have to construct these swales properly, and it will impact our ability to treat this water. And since we're not even quite, we don't have any wiggle room out here for treatment, we really would prefer not to take away any more than we already have out here.
Thank you. Alder Foster.
Thanks. Yeah, I can try and help answer the question around buffered bike lanes. Although keep in mind, as Elder Evers said, the Transportation Commission is the reason that they're the body that's recommending the geometry is because it's a pretty complicated topic and requires a bit of background. But I would say probably the best guide on what all ages and abilities bike facilities are and how to get them comes from NACTO, which is the North American City Transportation Officials. They are considered by many to be sort of the leading, most progressive urban engineering, traffic and transportation engineering body. Madison is a member, and they produced a good guide around what this means, why it's important, and a matrix that walks through what kinds of facilities are needed based on a number of different conditions, including the number of travel lanes, max motor vehicle average daily volume, target motor vehicle speeds, etc. And in that chart, for a target vehicle speed of 25 miles an hour or less, and for a single lane in each direction, the conventional bike lanes are only appropriate up to 3,000 cars per day. Once you get above 3,000 up to 6,000 cars per day, they recommend either buffered or protected bicycle lanes. Protected bicycle lanes are similar to buffered lanes, but they actually have concrete barriers in between. And then once you get above 6,000 cars per day on average, their recommendation is that you really need protected bike lanes. So that's just a quick reference as to why buffered bike lanes are called for here. I would also note that the design that was in front of the Transportation Commission was actually really the minimum legal limit for even having a motor vehicle lane and a adjacent unbuffered bike lane. So excluding the gutter band, the bike lane is actually only 4 foot wide and the travel lane is 10 foot wide. When you have a situation like that, it is basically impossible for a car to pass someone on a bike and giving the needed 3 foot of space without moving across the center line. And the reason that that's problematic is once you have a higher volume street, and in this case, anything above approximately 3,000 cars per day, it means that it's much more likely that cars will be coming in both directions and the cars will not slow down and stop and wait to pass someone who's in a bike lane with the appropriate space needed, but rather will continue in the travel lane, and there will not be adequate distance to that vehicle. In particular, when we're talking about all ages and abilities facilities, these are facilities that are designed to accommodate younger riders and older riders. So imagine a 11, 12-year-old kid riding their bike to the grocery store and what their mom or dad would feel comfortable with them doing. It's an 80-year-old that has a tricycle that's going to the grocery store to pick some things up, which is a much wider vehicle, and really has almost no wiggle room in a 4 foot bike lane. So I just wanted to call that out because it's not quite as simple as saying, well, there's bike lanes there.
Alder Evers, did you wish to say something more? Alder Evers, could you unmute yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
You'd think I'd have this figured out by now. Certainly not my first Zoom meeting. I wonder, is it at all possible, and what would be the objection to going to Welton Enterprises and trying to get the needed additional feet, a couple extra, is it 4 feet, to be able to widen the size of the street so that we can have parking on a buffered bike line? Has anybody done the measurements on how much is lacking here? And what are the institutional obstacles to actually doing something like that? And can it be accomplished? And if so, is it at what cost? Is it worth it? All that kind of thing. I guess I'm wondering if someone could speak to that, please.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So the first thing with the Welton property, which is the existing Pick and Save grocery store, is vertical grade difference. The grocery store, south side of the grocery store, is up high. There's a 3-foot retaining wall along the south property line. That retaining wall is supporting the delivery entrance to the back of the building. So if we start to inch the road to the north and go for more right-of-way there, we really can't go for more right-of-way there because their drive lane for deliveries is on the right-of-way. And if we would have to purchase more right-of-way, that would impede their ability to do deliveries. And then to get all the grades worked, I would think we would have to go, even grading up to the building, grading into their parking lot to make it all work. Moving west, you have SSM property as you head west on Cedar Street. It's all on the south side. Now they are currently, getting their CSM recorded. They've started construction. They're getting their developer agreement, I think is done. Their site plan approvals are either almost done or they're done. So trying to redo all of that, could hold up construction or stop construction of their clinic. On the south side of Cedar Street, we don't want to impede the Truman Olson site anymore. There was discussions weeks ago about, maybe the difficulty of getting in a grocery store the size that the city wants based on how much right-of-way we've already taken out of there. It's been worked out that they are able to fit the grocery store that we want, that the city wants. So I don't want to take any more right-of-way from them. We also have an apartment complex as we head west along South Street and Cedar. We don't want to impede that right-of-way anymore. Those apartment buildings are pretty close to the existing right-of-way right now. And then as we head further west of South Street on the south side, we have more SSM parking lots, and they're just far along in their process. I guess that's kind of my response to that question.
How would parking work with a swaled terrace and a big retaining wall adjacent to the street for someone who just wanted to park and have a quick run into the grocery store? Yep. We've got a lot of obstacles between the street and wherever the entrance to the store is.
Yep, good question. So the retaining wall doesn't affect the parking. That retaining wall for the Pick and Save site, that's on the north side of the entire property. We're trying to stay. We've dipped the road to the south for a couple of reasons. One was to try to tie it in at a 90-degree angle with Park Street. The other reason is and from engineering standpoint, we're trying to avoid all impacts to the Welton property because of potential negative feedback from Welton. If we have to go and ask them for right-of-way or easements, we also don't want to really impact that existing retaining wall. It's not our retaining wall. It's theirs. It's old, and we don't want to affect it in any way. So we're trying to stay 5 feet away from it with our sidewalk. You have a good question about the swales. If someone is parking there, they might have to. I don't know how. Maybe Lauren can speak to how deep they are, but either walk through the swale or walk to the driveway. We haven't got into like a full design to see if there's going to be any terrace walks or anything. To answer that question, I guess not into the full design of Cedar, and specifically working with the Truman Olson developer on kind of how that'll work, I guess, at this time.
Would any of the...
Well, I think Lauren's unmuted. Maybe she could respond to the, could describe the swale. Maybe that would be helpful for the board.
Sure. Yeah, I thought that was the question, but I wanted to make sure before I started. So these things are typically very shallow. They're sloped in at a slope of 3 to 1 at a maximum, usually preferably 4 to 1. So with a terrace this wide, we'd be looking at a maximum of about a foot of depth below that back of sidewalk grade. And then they would have to go right back up to the sidewalk or that back of curb grade. And then they'd have to slope up to the sidewalk.
Yeah. I guess I don't see these few parking spaces are going to be that handy for the grocery store users. Okay. Alder Evers, did you wish to speak again?
No, I'll take my hand down. I keep on forgetting to do that. I'm sorry. So.
Okay. Alder Evers, same question. Dan?
Yes, just to provide a little more context, my name is Dan Rolfs. I am with the city's Office of Real Estate Services in the Economic Development Division. I've been working with the disposition of the Truman Olson property in the RFP process and working with Brandon and Megan from Rule Enterprises and Moving Out to once the city selected a developer and moved this project forward. One of the key concerns here, and I know that Alder Evers has experienced this and is well versed in this, is amongst all of the other issues that you're being faced with, is ensuring that the grocery store, the existing Pick and Save, can stay open as long as possible. Hopefully just until the new grocery store opens up, so that we have as small a gap in grocery service or no gap in grocery service as possible. So as Andy pointed out and Lauren discussed as well, things that go on to the Welton site could cause problems in that regard, because one of the things that we as the city will need to do to move this development forward, because we're the property owner of the Truman Olson site, we will need to construct the road in a timely manner so that it's done in time for the grocery and apartment units there to open up in, get this right, in early 2022. So just a little more background as you deliberate.
Thank you. Michael. Oops, Michael.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if how many parking spaces spaces are we talking about here? And does anybody have an idea if this is going to be a benefit for the new grocery store and or the residents in the area?
We anticipate 25 stalls along the Truman Olson site. And then I think Brandon, he did mention that they did want the parking. It would benefit grocery users that maybe want to go in and out quickly. As far as a individual that would live there, maybe Brandon and Melissa could speak to how many stalls there are for the people that live there. Maybe if they have any visitors, those visitors would utilize the Cedar Street parking. That's about all the information I have about that.
Andy, can you confirm that the building is tied up against, or generally tied up against? There's no parking between the building and the sidewalk, I believe, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it's possible you would be creating parking spots for them?
Creating parking spots for them because maybe they won't do it on their site.
Or if they had somebody coming to visit, or they had.
I can't speak to that level of detail about the site. I would refer to the developer or maybe Dan from economic development. I don't know if he would know that.
I can. Sorry, go ahead.
Is the critical item tonight is approving the geometry for Belt Street where it connects into Cedar Street on the east side of Park Street?
I would say the critical approval tonight from the board at a minimum would be to approve all the geometrics except for the Park Street intersection. It would be approved. It would be approved where the curb is, and then we could work out later what was striped on Cedar Street with buffered bike lanes and no parking. We're going to go with the same street width, which is 40 feet, with the original proposal. I'm sorry, with 40 feet. I guess we would be looking for the board to do full approvals so we can move forward and get this project designed and put out for bid this fall so it's constructed next summer so the developer can begin construction of the Truman Olson site once we finalize the sale with them. We can certainly approve the pavement marking at a later time.
Yep, so that you could defer the decision on the buffered bike lanes or parking to a later date.
Yeah, I guess I don't have enough information to make an informed decision as far as the bike lanes, but certainly it seems that I'm comfortable with everything else as far as the 40-foot street width, but possibly there's something we can do as far as treating runoff or what the greater need is for parking or bike lanes, and if we can just leave that for another meeting, that'd be great.
Well, that would be fixed by the curb location and the sidewalk location, so you wouldn't be able to go back and change the terrace width.
Well, not change the terrace width. I'm just saying that possibly there's another alternative out there. I don't know what that would be. I have no idea.
Well, another alternative would eliminate the swale, which would eliminate that issue of people having to cross the swale to get to the store from the parking on the street. The curb and the sidewalk under that scenario would be fixed. And
right.
And I would point out also just so people are aware, even if you didn't put the swale in the terrace, the width of the terrace, which I think Sean can confirm, I think we need about 5 more feet. The terraces are generally 7 feet, a little bit variable on one side, but generally 7 feet. That would put the terrace down to 4.5 feet, which is not a particularly desirable dimension for growing trees and such.
Thank you, Michael. Alder Evers?
Yeah, thank you. It seems to me that we have these competing values, all of which are good. We want the grocery store to get built as quickly as possible without delay, to be able to meet the needs of a neighborhood that without us accomplishing that primary goal, we could be facing a food desert in South Madison. We know about this. That's an important value. The stormwater management is an important value given what took place 2 years ago and the flooding and the potential for flooding as well. And there is the clear value about complete streets. I am worried that planning has not been able to present these shared values, these common values to the developer, and requiring that the developer provide sufficient parking for a successful project without imposing upon the streets. I think moving forward, we need to have a clear direction to the developer that you cannot be guaranteed parking on the street. The success of your project cannot be contingent upon street parking. It baffles me that we're at this point now where we're trading off shared values and turning them into competing values. We also have to consider that we don't know exactly how much parking will be needed once BRT is set up and once transit alternatives are clear and evident. And we also have to plan for a future that's not as dependent upon automobiles. But I'm asking, this is perhaps just a rhetorical point. Let's not get into this position where shared and important values are placed in competition with one another, and that we insist upon projects that acknowledge all these values up front so that we don't have to pull one out and like a Jenga toy, suddenly the project falls apart. So I think we need to move forward with the existing geometry. We need to be very careful before we take away protected bike access. But I'm troubled that we're faced with this conflict. But let's move forward and pass this on so it is not delayed. But I don't think that we should, as a board, undermine the recommendations of Transportation Commission without really serious consideration. I think that sets a bad precedent.
Michael? Oh, maybe I muted you. Okay. Michael, did you have another comment?
Well, no, I would agree with what Alder Evers just said. However, I don't think it's, I just don't have enough information to pass. I mean, as far as the geometry goes, I would agree. That's fine. It looks good. As far as what's going to be marked on the street, I would have that as a condition of passing this tonight. That I would rather have more discussion on exactly who needs what, because I am very much unclear with that right now.
And what information would you be looking for that I could get together and get for
Well, I guess one of the points that Alder Evers brought up was the fact that and I don't know if this is last minute or what, the developers are now saying they don't have enough parking. They need more parking on the street. It would be better to have parking on the street for the residents who are going to be using the store. Is there any advantage to having parking on the street for anybody that lives in the area?
I would say the developer has not changed their tune on it. Can we either let Dan speak on behalf of the developer, or can we let the, because the developer's here. I don't want to assume things about them.
I think if the board has particular questions that they could email any one of us on the staff, and we can get those to Dan and the other developer. So let's not worry about that one at this moment.
Okay.
If the board is interested in this, I think pretty quickly here suggests some language for the resolution, which would, if Alder Evers agrees, would be a substitute resolution headed to council. Let me know if you want me to do that.
Let's do that.
Okay, I think it's a pretty easy fix. The resolution in the first paragraph, it currently reads, the new portion of Cedar Street will include sanitary sewer, storm sewers, stormwater bioretention, asphalt pavement, gravel base, curb, sidewalk on both sides of the street, marked bike lanes, and parking on one side of the street. To the end of that sentence, add or buffered bike lanes on both sides of the street. So it's parking on one side of the street or buffered bike lanes on both sides of the street. And then in the resolved clauses, if we insert between the now therefore be it resolved clause and the be it further resolved clause, another be it further resolved clause that reads as follows: be it further resolved that the geometry approval for the intersection of South Park Street and Cedar Street and the pavement marking on Cedar Street is excluded from this approval. I think that takes care of everything. And that would be a substitute resolution for council. And Alder Evers has to agree for that to be a substitute, as he is the sponsor.
Alder Evers?
Thank you. I don't have that kind of memory that I can see all that in front of me. Is there any chance you've already typed that out so that we could read that real quick?
No, I just wrote it on.
Oh, okay. Could you say it one more time so that all of us could listen to this? And I mean, I'm inclined to say yes, but I need to hear it one more time.
Okay, so the body of the resolution, the first paragraph, it talks about what is included in the project. And one of the items included in the project is, and it says parking on one side of the street, okay? So we have to modify that. So we modify that by saying, and parking on one side of the street or buffered bike lanes on both sides of the street. Okay, that takes care of that. And then we've got to exclude the geometry for the Park Street and Cedar Street intersection, because that's what Transportation Commission excluded. And we have to exclude the pavement marking on Cedar Street. So if we add this, therefore be it resolved clause, be it further resolved clause, be it further resolved that the geometry approval for the intersection of South Park Street and Cedar Street and the pavement marking on Cedar Street is excluded from this approval.
Yeah, I can move approval of that substitute.
Thank you.
We are kicking the can down the road, though, but at least we're admitting that this merits further conversation.
Well, I've been here for 30 plus years and we've kicked a lot of cans down the road.
Yeah, you hear me though. I'm calling on all of us to do better when we can and avoid these kinds of conflicts.
I'd like to go ahead and second that.
Thank you. So unless I see an objection, the motion will be approved unanimously. Alder Evers, do you want to take your hand down?
Yeah, sorry about that. My hand is down. Yeah.
Thank you. With that, the motion passes. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So that takes us to item 11, change orders. I feel like I missed something. Okay, item 11. Jim Wolf.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Wolf with City Engineering. I'm the project engineer for our Alleys Reconstruction project. This change order contains a few items. All of these are mostly related to adjusting some alley grades and things to better tie into adjacent properties. These alleys are very narrow and left some limited wiggle room to make the adjustments. So there are some field changes made to better tie into driveways and garages, a number of which had recently been reconstructed in between the time frame when we first got the survey data and moved forward with the project. And this project also involves reconstructing 5 separate alleys. So this change order is accounting for additional stone, some concrete, and this retaining wall curb would carry forward across all 5 alleys, even though 2 of them still are left to be reconstructed. The retaining wall curb was at a location where we had planned with the project to be able to grade out a little bit of a yard space, but that we found that to actually be pretty well landscaped, and there is an existing fence there. So to address the grade issue between the new alley pavement and the yard and the property adjacent to it, we asked the contractor to install some curbing along the new alley pavement. And then the concrete, the 5-inch concrete and the gradation 2 stone are mostly to address alley grade issues and match into driveways along the various alleys. Those 2 items are spread out across all 5 of the alleys.
Thank you. Are there questions? Is there a motion to approve? David?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Joe?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Unless I see objection with raised hands, I will declare motion passes. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 12, and thank you, Jim. Item 12, Randy Wisner, warning sirens. Is Randy here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. I pronounced your name wrong, so that's one thing.
I'll forgive you, Jackie.
Thank you very much.
This is the second request for extension to the warning sirens from last year's contract. This is the 4th siren that is still not energized because the initial location where we wanted to put it in the Autumn Lake development, the developer was against us putting it on his primary road into the development. We had to move it farther west. It's a better location for the siren for covering the development. However, that part of the development has yet to be developed. Throughout last year, he did some grading as he's progressing towards that direction. They did not get to it as promised in the fall. He's currently working on doing that grading now, creating the stormwater area that the siren is located in. The siren and the pole have been planted. We're just waiting on further development so that MG&E can run service lines so that we can draw power off of a nearby transformer to the siren. So basically, we're asking for another contract extension. We've been promised by the developer that he will have all of that in by late summer. And then we will be able to get an electrical service to the pole, still make the 2 siren tests before the siren test stop for the year, and then be able to close the contract.
Thank you. Michael? Michael, I need you to unmute.
Got it.
Thank you.
I was just wondering how far down the line, if they don't get the work done in time and we have to go for another extension, when does it get to be a cost increase issue as far as what the city is responsible for paying?
At this point in time, there shouldn't be much, if any, cost increase. The siren itself has been mounted to the pole. All the ancillary equipment's been mounted to the pole, and the pole's been put in the ground. MG&E is the one that has to run the service to the pole. The contractor has to connect the service to the equipment. We are retaining enough of the contract to cover the contractor connecting to the service.
I'm just wondering if the cost will go up. Say they don't get it done in 145 days and they want another one. Then all of a sudden it's snowing out and the contractor's got to wait or do heating because it's winter or something like that. The city's going to end up paying more money for that, right? If that was the case?
If he were to request it, yes, but I don't foresee that happening.
All right. Just wondering. Thank you.
Good. Seeing no further questions, is there a motion to approve? David?
I'll move.
Thank you. A second. Who would like to second this? Oh, here we go. Alder Furman.
Second.
Thank you. If there's no objection, motion will pass unanimously. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 13, Anderson Street resurfacing. Body?
Yes. Hi.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you go ahead.
Hey, hi, I'm Fadil Musa with City Engineering. Tonight I'm going to be talking about change order number 1 for the Anderson Street construction project. Basically, the change order amount is $95,951.25. This is for increasing the amount of quantities for undercut, breaker run, and geotextile fabric. So basically, this project is divided in 2 phases for traffic control. Phase number 1 is the resurfacing project, and phase number 2 would be a reconstruction project. Currently, traffic is on what is scheduled to be a reconstruction project, and the contractor is currently working on the resurfacing project, in the resurfacing area. While in the process of removing the existing pavement on the resurfacing phase, it was noticed by city staff that the existing to remain base course was on top of soft and unstable subsoil, subbase. And city engineering construction staff basically is recommending removing that subbase and replacing it with some breaker run to improve the quality of the roadway. The quantities that you're seeing in the change order basically are being conservative. We are assuming that when the contractor, when traffic control switches and the contractor starts working on the reconstruction part of the project, we're basically going to find the same issue. And that it's been accounted for in this change order and its quantities. So that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Michael, let me get you here. Okay, Michael.
Yeah, why weren't soil borings done on this project?
So when in the design process of this project, basically before it went to the Transportation Commission and went to the board for approval, it was basically a simple resurfacing project in which the base of the street was not planned to be replaced. On the reconstruction part, I did assume like 20% of that portion to have undercut. Yet on the resurfacing part of it, since the base course was not meant to be replaced, we did not ask for those soil borings to be made, considering that it would be a problem in regards to timeline.
All righty, thank you.
Thanks. Is there a motion to approve? David. Oops, I got the wrong way. David.
So move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. That was Michael seconding. Motion passes unless there's objection. Seeing none, motion passes. Item 18, Janet. I'm going to step away for half a second or a minute, but continue on. But talk for more than a minute, Janet.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hear me? Okay, good. Okay, so I'm Janet Schmidt with the Engineering Division, and tonight I have a resolution for amending a contract we have with the USGS for a green infrastructure study we're doing in the Westmoreland area. And they have a map up on the screen right now that kind of shows the area that we're talking about. It's over in Westmoreland, kind of west of the golf course, Glenway Golf Course, and north of Wodana Road. So we're doing, and you've seen, the board has seen this already before, but I'll just do a really quick summary. So what we're doing is working with the USGS and installing monitoring equipment to measure the benefits of green infrastructure improvements. So the red lines indicate the streets that are being reconstructed this year that we're doing green infrastructure with, and some of those could be stormwater rain gardens or rain terraces. We have rock cribs and then pervious pavement that we're installing. So what the amendment tonight is, for the 5-year study we're doing with USGS, we want to add chloride testing to this as well. And it's important in the Linger Watershed, of course, and all over. And we want to see how the green infrastructure improvements in our 5-year pilot area are going to be impacted by chloride, or if we have green infrastructure installations, if that's going to see an increase of chloride, a decrease, or just no difference. So with what we're doing here, the USGS is going to complete a paper for the project, and then we hope to use that as a guide document for other projects we're going to do throughout the city, and then other municipalities could also use that as guidance as well. So the amendment is to add $21,500 over the course of 5 years. It'll be $7,500 the first year, which is this year, and then $3,500 extra dollars every year for the rest of the contract. And that will take the total contract amount up to $305,500. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? David?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Alder Evers?
Second.
Thank you. If there's no objection, motion will pass unanimously. Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you, Janet. That takes us to, were there any appeals regarding pre-qualifications, Heidi?
There were none.
Thank you. Approval of bids.
Okay, the bids for this evening. Item 22 on the agenda is contract number 8560, West Transfer Point Concrete Repairs. Recommending the low bidder, Bachmann Construction Company Incorporated, $67,095 even. Item number 23 on the agenda is contract number 8891, the Sycamore Truck Scale Project. Recommending the low bidder, Joe Daniels Construction Company Incorporated, $263,244 even. Item number 24 on the agenda is contract number 8898, Unit Well 26 booster pump upgrades. Recommending the low bidder, Monona Plumbing and Fire Protection Incorporated, $71,253. Item number 25 on the agenda is contract number 8920, the Alice Bonham Schaefer Water Main. Recommending the low bidder, S&L Underground Incorporated, $390,576.45. Item number 26 on the agenda is contract number 8930, Traffic Median Revegetation and Maintenance. Recommending the low bidder, Cursus, probably pronouncing that wrong, Land Stewardship LLC, $37,350 even. Item number 27 on the agenda is contract number 8904. You were sent the actual bid tab, filled out bid tab late. But if you don't have that, it's $140,000 is the bid for Madison Commercial Landscapes Incorporated. And this is contract 8904, 2020 Playground Improvements Group 3. And we are recommending the low bidder, Madison Commercial Landscapes Incorporated, $140,000 even. Number 28 on the agenda is contract number 8349. That's the East Dayton Street Assessment District 2020. Recommending the low bidder, Capital Underground Incorporated, $1,478,408.82. And those are the bids for this evening.
Thank you. Michael Cullen, hang on. Okay, Michael.
Mike, you're muted.
Yeah, Rob, I had a question regarding item 25.
Yep.
Which was the Alice Bonham Schaefer Water Main, S&L Underground. Yep. And the estimate was 500, it's right there as a matter of fact. 580,000. You had three bids come in over 500,000, which seemed to be kind of jive with what with where your estimate was. You had another bid at 460. And then the low bid was at 390. Are there any concerns that you have that they possibly missed something?
The water utility reviewed this bid, and Pete, I think, is here.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep. We reviewed the bid, and as you pointed out, we got 5 bids. Ranging from high to low, and I'm satisfied with S&L's consideration. They had questions about the project. They've done a number of jobs for us, through the 10 years I've been here, including a number of water-only contracts similar in scope to this one. I feel they understand it reasonably.
Just for my own information, do you go back to the contractors after it's bid out just to make sure that they don't have any issues with the bid?
issues with
that, Michael. The contractors get the bids and see the results, and they are plenty capable of pointing out any errors that they made on their side. If they feel that they made an error, it's their obligation to approach us, and they've done that in the past. That is a pretty serious problem, actually. If that does occur, we would award to the second bidder, and we would take their bid bond, which they never want. So, but yes, I would not be concerned about that aspect because they track that themselves.
All righty, thank you.
Good. Joe Clausius, you would unmute.
Sorry about that. I was going to move for approval of the bids 22 through 28 as presented.
Thank you. Nope, it's David. Okay, David?
Second.
Thank you. If there's no objection, projects are, items 22 through 28 are unanimously approved. Heidi, did I miss anything?
Nope, it looks like you got everything.
Okay.
One thing before we adjourn, I think it's appropriate after 10 plus years to thank Jackie Lawton for the chair, for her service. It's a lot of time to put in, and it's very much appreciated by the engineering division.
You're welcome. Good luck on your future adventures. And poor Paul just got me halfway trained up on being the moderator, so there'll be something new to do there too. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jackie. You've been great.
Last meeting.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn? And I have, anyway, I need a motion to adjourn. Here we go, Joe.
Okay, so move.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Probably see you around if we get out and about again.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.